Hello, guys. Welcome into the Starcastica Mark Studios. This is the after game review for game number 5. The Stars lose by a final score of 3-1 in tonight's game. Calgary takes the series lead 3-2. And unfortunately, to give you the statistics, 79% of the time, the team that wins game 5 ends up winning this series. But please let us know down in the comment section down below if you think the Stars can rebound in game 6 and also win game 7. We would love to hear your comments there. But before we get into tonight's game and we introduce everybody in here, please go and use the promo code THP. And the next time you go and use the DraftKings app, we'd appreciate that. And they're a big sponsor of our show, this episode, and also our entire network, the Hockey Podcast Network. So we thank them for doing so. And we got a bunch of people here tonight. So obviously over in the top right is James as always. And there down in the bottom right is Christian as always. But down in the left, we have a new guest on here. Unfortunately, I wish it was under better circumstances. But this is Patrick. He is a writer for Blackout Dallas, just like I am. And he's been writing for sports for about 15 years. He's a season ticket holder, and he's been to every single Stars game this season. So I wish we'd have you on a better time there, Patrick. I was really hoping that tonight was going to be a Stars win, but thanks for joining the show.
Thanks for having me. You guys do a great job, so thanks for fitting me into your show.
Yeah, of course, man. So unfortunately for the Stars tonight, like we already mentioned, the final score in tonight's game was 3-1. And we want to talk about a couple of things, but is there anything specific that y'all want to get into that you want to point out that was either a good thing, bad thing, just initial observations about this game?
The thing that I really caught the attention of is in the Valley Sports broadcast, they had an interview on Sagan. The last question that was asked was, what's the key to closing out this third period? And the thing he said was, don't allow the goal. And that was definitely the mantra for the Stars when they came out in the third period. They were playing not to lose. They were playing not to allow the third goal. And the Flames are one of the most highest potency offenses in the league. They come from behind all the time in third periods. They're one of the best teams in the league at doing it. And they proved why tonight. Did it on home ice. Did it when they needed to.
James, anything that you noticed particularly throughout the game that you wanted to point out?
Yeah, I mean, I thought for the first two periods we played exactly how we wanted to. We played good puck possession a lot of the time. We weren't just giving it away to them. We were blocking shots really well. And in the third period, that kind of just stopped. So, for the most part.
So, you said that it just sort of kind of stopped.
That's what it looked like, at least.
Yeah.
No, and I'm not disagreeing with you at all. Obviously, it did. Otherwise, we'd be talking about a Stars win here tonight. But what do y'all think happened? Because I'm trying to point my finger onto one thing, and I can't figure it out, to be honest with you.
Well, the biggest thing that happened was the Flames came out hot. No pun intended. But they were, like, literally from the first shift, which was a scoring chance, they were outstanding the entirety of the third period, and they kept the pressure on 100%. The Stars never established themselves in the offensive zone in the first 10 minutes, and they didn't really try in the first 5 at least. And once the Flames took that lead, it was an uphill battle from there. There's nothing you could have really done when the momentum is that far on the Flames side.
And this is something that I've talked about for a while now. It really hurts to lose this game as a Stars fan. I mean, the fan part of me is just completely devastated right now because obviously the statistic that I mentioned at the beginning of the show. But the other thing that kind of hacks me off is the fact that they just can't seem to score. And we've talked about it all season. And they're apparently great defensively, but you know that you allow one mistake to happen, and if you only have a 1-goal lead, then that's all the other team needs is just one mistake.
Yeah. And that's the only way we're trying to win right now is we're trying to win purely on defense and trying to hold on to 1-goal leads. For me, that kind of opens up the can of worms. Is what do y'all think about the lineup decision from the get-go, breaking up the first line that has 50% of our offense on the season and just break him up, trying to see what happens in game 5. Obviously it works for Robo. I didn't like Raffle on the first line. I mean, he still played hard. He was aggressive on the forecheck. I just don't think there's enough offensive upside from him.
I kind of
on
like
that
seeing
line,
the
and
off there in the top line there with a little bit more skill.
And
yeah,
that's one of the things that I was going to mention. Is, I mean, we pulled Robertson onto that second line with Ben and Sagan, and that worked for him. But we pulled Raffle off of that checking line, and that seemed to really hurt Foxa and Glendening tonight. I mean, especially in the third period, they did not play great.
Yeah, and I mean the 2 goals that the Flames score are against our checking forwards too. So that's definitely true.
See, it's a larger conversation to a certain extent, right? Because, like, you know, obviously the Stars have struggled to score. They're like mid-pack, you know, on the season. And, you know, everyone can relate to this, I think, because we all watch football. But, like, I look at this, at least in this game, like, I look at them as they were running the ball for, like, in a football game. Like, you know, if you have the lead and you're running the ball and you're forcing the other team to, like, make tackles and the clock is running, like, that can be a really good strategy. But, like, what happens when the other team hits a 70-yard bomb on you? Like, are you just going to be able to flip the script and start passing your way down the field? Most likely not. It's frustrating because, like, then you get into the whole, boy, I'm so anxious to hear y'all's perspective on bonus the system. But, you know, like, the defense, you know, that strategy has worked for the Stars for a long time. And I just think, though, that, like, when you look at this game and this series as a whole, it seems pretty clear, though, that the Flames have the edge in scoring depth. I think we just have a slight edge in defense just because Miro's so good. But, you know, I mean, look who scored their goal, the game winner, Mangiapane, right? I mean, the guy had 35 goals on the year. And, I mean, he's a Stars killer. I don't know if y'all remember him, but, I mean, he crushes the Stars. I mean, it's like, it felt like every time we played him the last couple of years, I mean, that he was on us. So it's frustrating because, you know, it just seems like Dallas needs that second line. And then you get mentioned opening a can of worms. You start thinking about, boy, if we could get anything from a second line, then where would this team be? And I knew going into the third that they were going to need more than 1 goal to win the game. And it's frustrating because I think maybe to the outside perspective, it looks like maybe Dallas was sitting back, but I kind of look at this as Calgary just took it from Dallas.
Yeah, that's the thing that made me upset about Sagan's comment, though. I mean, Sagan's comment makes me think that the plan was to sit back. I mean, he's saying their number 1 priority is to not allow the goal. I mean, that sounds like he's trying to win 1-0.
Well,
yeah, they've done that a ton. I just think you have to consider the opponent here, right? Like, the Flames, I mean, they figured it out offensively the last 2 games. They have. And that's with, like, Anjer standing on his head. So you're right. Like, you know, I've had this discussion throughout the season with people about, like, yeah, I genuinely don't think Bonus goes into the locker room and he's saying to the team, like, okay, play defensive here, like, stay on the right side of the puck and, like, don't play for offense. But it's really hard to disagree with that notion when you just see what we just saw, because it's clear that their forecheck wasn't as strong. Heck, their neutral zone wasn't as strong. And then the thing they needed to be the best, which was their defensive zone coverage, and they got beat twice. So
with a lot of shots too.
Yeah.
Did you guys see the edge in shots? It was like 15-6 or something.
Yeah, I think
16-7.
16-5 was the final in the third.
Okay.
And that's even more frustrating based off of the shots in the first 2 periods too. I mean, we did a perfect job in the first 2 periods. We matched them or got close to matching them in both those periods. And in the third, it's just complete blowout in shots.
And we were trailing for a large part in the third too. And we still never got shots in that period.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I think that was the most frustrating part from a fan perspective, that, you know, first off, we have to have a whole conversation about the power play, but after that fizzles out and there's approximately like 4 minutes left to go, I mean, man, Dallas couldn't even get set up to get a chance.
Yeah.
They couldn't even get in the zone. And then if they did get in the zone, it was via dump and chase, which they were forced to do because Calgary is playing so aggressive. And then, it's just like season on the line to see how that panned out the last few minutes was frustrating. Because I think we all know, like over the course of the season, we all know that Dallas has it in them to take those types of games. Like Dallas has shown throughout the season that they can claim those types of wins. And if they're close games, I mean, we all know their record for, during 1-goal games. It's like their bread and butter. It's just to see it happen on the other side of it is pretty difficult to watch.
Yeah. And you mentioned the power play. I think that frustrated me most on the power play tonight is that the injuries, it seemed like they were just banging our head against the wall. I mean, I know we're having trouble getting into the zone any other way, but if we're just going to dump it in 6 times and let 2 minutes pass, that's what the last 2 power plays were. There were 6 dump-ins, all of them got cleared. The only time we had zone presence was when we won a face-off. And, I mean, something's got to change.
Or a broken play.
Or a broken play. And, I mean, something's got to change on that. Like, there's got to be some coaching to figure something out. There's no way the Flames penalty kill is awesome. It's amazing, of course. There's no way it's that perfect where the only option is just to dump it in over and over again, even though it's clearly not working.
And the thing that's frustrating me about the power play is that they're not adapting to what's been working.
Yeah. No.
And I mean, Razor said it perfectly. And I was already thinking about it before he even mentioned this. But in the broadcast, Razor was saying, at this point, I don't even know why they're trying. He didn't say it this way, but he basically said it this way. What's the point in trying to get set up? Because obviously it's not working. Just go off the rush, get your one chance, and then let them clear it out. Because obviously, trying to set up is not going to work.
That's better than passing it to Markstrom 6 times.
Right.
Yeah. Markstrom's been good playing the puck, though. I will give him credit.
He definitely
there.
Has been.
Yeah.
You can't just keep giving it to him, though. I mean,
Right.
No, I mean,
change.
yeah. I think that's the overall take here, though, right, fellas?
Yeah.
Like, learn from, how the series has gone and learn your lesson. So it does seem like Dallas is beating their head up against the wall. So, but, I have a question for you guys. Like, how do you think you can make the change on that power play? Because, I never liked playing coach. Like, Bonus has 40 years of experience. Like, those other 2 guys on the coaching staff have tons of experience. So I don't think any of us or any fan is just going to walk in there like, hey, this is how you fix it. Because if that was the case, then they would have done that a long time ago.
Yeah.
But, just from like a real outsider perspective and, we're getting into like Hail Mary mode for the Stars. Like, we're down 3-2 going. I mean, what's killer though is both teams were 2-17 on the power play headed into this game. Like, I know everyone knew the Stars power play was bad, but I don't think people realized that the Flames power play wasn't exactly lighting it up either. So you obviously have to give the Stars PK credit. But as far as like the changes I would make personally, like, man, I think at this point you have to take Suter off that unit. And this would never happen, but I'd love to see Harley come in for Suter. I know he's a rookie. It would be the biggest game of the season, but I mean, you talked about those dump-ins, dude. Half of them had to have come from Suter.
Yep.
Because he's coming up there and he's too slow to make a deke or skate around someone. So it just seems like anytime the puck comes to him and he's coming up the ice, like there's no way they're getting in the zone and setting up. Like, no way.
Yeah. And since we're on defensemen, let's just go ahead and add Klingberg to it. A lot of Stars fans calling for both their heads tonight, and I think for good reason, especially on that power play. I feel like I saw Klingberg turn over the puck 5 times in a row, like every time it touched his stick. Suter pretty much the same way, and he's always dumping it in. I've never seen him carried across the blue line once. Both those guys had terrible third periods in the time that we really needed them most. And while we're on that too, I mean, Miro's non-existent. I mean, I know we love to talk about Miro and how great he is. He's still amazing defensively and doesn't turn the puck over nearly as much as the other 2 guys. But for the contract he's getting paid, he needs to create some offense. And he's hit a couple posts in previous games, but there was not much in that third period. Not much from anybody, obviously. But I just feel like for the amount that he gets paid and the leadership role that we give him on this team, I haven't seen much impact from him either.
How much you guys think that is because of Suter, though?
It could be. Yeah.
I mean,
I
they
don't-
played
he's the
together like
partner.
more than half of the year, right?
Yep.
It's frustrating because his contract is basically untradeable. Like they'd
Mhm.
have to buy out 3 years, which is pretty near impossible. At like what, $4.5 million or something per year. So it's frustrating. Like I think they have to try something. I'm curious about you guys' view of Joel Hanley, because I think for the most part he's been pretty good in the series, like defensively. But you know,
Right.
getting to the Stars' main problem, like their problem is scoring, and it seems like when Hanley plays with Klingberg that he's taken the more like stay-at-home defenseman role. And I think at some point you've got to get, I think you've got to get Harley in there and just give him an opportunity to like make some plays. Because I mean, you guys saw his goal the last regular season game. Like the guy's got a bomb, he can shoot, and we know he can skate. He's physical. He's big enough that I think he could handle the physical toll. So I don't know. It's tough because like I think people want to always like look at the bottom two defensemen, and I don't know. I can't really hang it on Harley. I feel like where I look at this is really on Suter. So
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's something we haven't really talked about a lot either. Is that Suter he hasn't been anywhere near what we need him to be and what we pay him to be since we're paying him into his 40s. So that's definitely true. And just overall, the defensemen in this series have not been existent. That's something Ryan talked about, that we're going to need help from them. Ben and Sagan, not much. I mean, Sagan got that goal last game, kind of too little, too late. But yeah, the veteran guys that we have on our team, other than Joe Pavelski, obviously, have not been present. So.
And let me jump in for a second because I think Suter has been well. I think he's done well, and you can disagree with me, but the guy led the Dallas Stars demon in scoring. He shouldn't have, but he did.
which is amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. And just the fact that you have to rely on him to do that is not good at the age of 36.
Yeah,
and
totally.
he has been solid defensively, but you have to hamper on him for this game. I mean, if we're being totally fair, and I'm being unbiased here, because he's been good for most of the season. He's had his games where he's been really bad. Tonight was a really bad game by him and by Klingberg, and I think several plays that each of them made kind of forced the Stars to make some plays that they didn't want to, and it allowed the Flames to get some momentum off of this. And let me also jump back to your comment about the run, the run offense. The Cowboys were famous for this when I think even when Felix Jones was still a running back for the Cowboys. But the thing that's different about the Cowboys doing that and the Stars, if we're making a comparison, is that the Cowboys would own the football. They would own the football. And the difference between the first two periods and the third period, in my opinion, and the complete differences in the game, is that the Stars did not control the puck at all in the third period. And when they did, it was an immediate turnover back to the Calgary Flames, and then they were just harder on the puck. And the other and one other thing before I let you speak, James, sorry, is the fact that they panicked. Let's be honest, they panicked.
Yeah,
that goal happened, and all of their energy was gone. All of their good forecheck was gone. All of their good plays out of their own zone were gone. Everything was gone, like in a snap. And that right there tells me that this is not a team that's ready to be a Stanley Cup champion.
Well,
and I hate to say that, but it's true.
A lot of the turnovers that I felt we had in the third period there are because the Flames, they were pressing harder. They were very, very aggressive on us. I thought the problem was is that we didn't do anything to try to counteract that. We played the exact same as we did the last two periods, which would have been fine had the Flames not been in like desperation mode trying to get a goal. but they're in desperation mode. They're pushing you really hard. They're on you the second you get the puck. You got to figure out something to do with it before you get the puck. And it just didn't seem like that was happening.
So I guess we'll go ahead and get into it because we've kind of talked circles, and I think it's pretty obvious who we would put as our biggest winners and biggest losers. But James, you want to go first with your biggest winner, biggest loser?
Biggest winner, I'll say Robertson. That was a sick freaking goal, by the way. Ben creates the space for him, but after that, it's all him, man. He just skates in there, gets to the front of net, beats him on the far side.
And Mangiapane, game winner, primary on the tying goal. He got us.
Yep.
And then Patrick, did you have a biggest winner and biggest loser?
Man, it's tough. I definitely share your sentiments about Robertson, and I think if the Stars have any chance of coming back in the series, they have to have 40-goal player Robertson, and he showed flashes, and I do like that move from Bonus. I just feel like it is pretty, yeah, of course we want to keep that top trio together, but I mean, this is the playoffs. You have to try stuff. You've got to try different strategies, and I thought it paid off to a certain extent. And if you consider the roles that Sagan and Ben are playing, they've got to take a backseat to a certain extent. I always think about that when you have three really good players all in one line. At what point is someone not getting their shot share? It'd be like if you guys remember, Clay, Steph, and Kevin Durant. Somebody's not going to be taking as many shots, right? So I do like that move. So I put Robertson up there. I'm just so impressed with Markstrom, man. I just feel like I think for me he's biggest winner because he just looks so unflappable back there, and he's really answered Ottinger's two great games with two of his own. Because rewatching the first part of Game 4, I thought he was really, really good, and who knows what it would be like if Dallas had gotten on the board in Game 4 at home, and that could be a completely different series. And I think it's pretty clear that Suter's the biggest loser. But I never want to come across it's not like I think I could go out there and do better than him.
I can do better.
Yeah, but age is a concern. He's slow, and kind of what we were talking about with the power play. You need these players to be able to make some moves at the blue line, and he can't. He doesn't even try, really. And I guess that's at least he knows his game. But
well,
yeah. You mentioned Ben and Sagan having to take a back seat. I feel like they've been on the back seat for a while, unfortunately, though. So I don't know if putting a guy who's good was supposed to get Ben and Sagan with them was supposed to get them going, or if that was just trying to get Robertson going, or maybe a little bit of both.
That's
probably what it was, but I don't know. I don't like the move. I feel like when half your goals and the majority of your wins are coming from that top line, that's a tough sell for me to break them up.
Mm-hmm.
It makes more sense when you're on the road when they can match you. So we'll see what happens next game though.
Oh yeah, do I want them to go back to being together at home? I personally would prefer that.
Yeah.
Especially, I think that's a really key thing we're discussing here, though, right? Is getting last change. I think that the Flames having last change in Game 5 really influenced this move. Don't you guys think?
Absolutely agree with that.
Yeah, honestly, I'll go with my biggest winner being Mangiapane tonight because he's needed a goal, and he's been stoned multiple times by Otter in the series, and he finally got one that was a really big goal that turned the tide of the game. And my biggest loser for tonight is actually going to be Rick Bowness because they played really well in the first two periods. He made an adjustment. Then Suter, the head coach for the Flames, made an adjustment and basically flipped his two right wingers on the top line. And then there was no answer after that from Rick Bowness. They seemed just to do the same thing, and he got out coached. And I mean, that's part of your job is when you're the coach like that, and you see that they make an adjustment, and you see that the tide is turning against you, you have to do something.
I mean,
And
on that though,
go ahead.
then you're saying, what are you supposed to do? I mean, it's the Flames. Look at all their good players. Who are you supposed to put against who? I mean, at some point there's going to be a mismatch.
Well,
So
I think that's a bigger
I
discussion.
kind of agree, but
yeah, I'm
so
dying to hear y'all's perspective on bonus. I feel like, especially as the series winds down here, I'm really curious about how much responsibility you feel like he takes for some of this, because at least on Stars Twitter, which is obviously the vocal minority, like people have been reaming him all year. I mean, they boo him when they announce him at the games.
Yeah,
I hate that.
We were on him a lot before the trade deadline. After that, we kind of moved past it into acceptance stage, and we're kind of just thinking, all right, how are we gonna win with this system then?
I mean,
bonus anonymous, no, not Alcohol's Anonymous, but bonus anonymous.
BA. I think the new wave of Stars players is their way to win is going to be the new wave of the NHL, and that's goal scoring and speed. And I don't think Bone's system is conducive to that. So I think we should get a new goalie, but we drilled this into the ground when the Stars were really struggling.
New coach.
Yeah.
So
new coach.
Yeah.
You said new goalie, Chris.
Yeah, new coach, not a new
coach.
I think we've proven our goalie's pretty good.
I think a big part of what's wrong with Bonus is that he doesn't really do anything. He doesn't do anything wrong, but he doesn't seem to do anything right very often. And when he does, it's like a miracle. Like it shouldn't be surprising when he does something right. So,
I mean, does Robertson's scoring count as doing something right?
It counts as a miracle. That's my miracle.
I think you have to give him credit, though. I think you have to give him credit for the lineup change.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, though. But like, we shouldn't have to give him credit every time he changes the lineup.
Right, it should just be part of his job. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, and then on the flip side of that, is it his fault that we don't get a goal from the first line then? Because I mean, you can look at that both ways too. I mean, Pavelski had his chances, but we still didn't find one. We talked about how last game we need goals from the first line to win, since that's what we're kind of built on. So you kind of take that both ways too.
So
I don't know, man. I want to hear more of y'all's opinion on this, because obviously I wasn't around for all those talks, but I mean, I always just go back to, like, the players are the ones out there playing. Like, that's where, if people would assert that, like, it's like he told them to think defensively there. No, and there's a larger conversation there with the system, because I'm in agreement that I think that with this new wave of talent that we have, especially once we get these kids from the minors, that there needs to be a systematic change. But at the end of the day, like, this was the team that fell apart there. It's not like he's out there shooting or giving up goals in their own zone or turnovers and all that. So I don't know. It's a much larger conversation, because I think if you look at the results as a whole, I think, like, he's I think he's really gotten the most out of his team. Like, I think how the roster is constructed and how much they're paying certain players, like, I just don't know quite what else he could have done differently.
Yeah, I just think overall the defensive system is not what would be best for this team. I think it stifled the offensive defensemen that we have, whereas this year they're not. I mean, Miro Heiskanen is not an offensive defenseman this year by the numbers. Klingberg is obviously not. Suter is our best offensive defenseman, which is crazy, and he's not having a great offensive year either. So I don't think all three of those guys can just fall off the map in the points category, and that's just happenstance and not due to system. I think Sagan and Ben, kind of the same thing. They were kind of on a downward trend, but that's gone. Radulov is gone. Guryanov has great offensive potential, all the tools. He's gone. I mean, that's why I feel most that there's some blame to be had on the coach, because we have players that have history of being good offensive players that, with the way that we play now, just aren't. I just think there's too much luck there for it to just be every single one of those guys individually just stop producing offensively. And I think there's a common denominator there, and the common denominator I'm pointing at is the coach / the system.
Yeah, there's a ton of credence to that.
Yeah, I think the system is the issue. I mean, it really is. because
But
the
not this game.
way
This game, the Stars played this. So we know that the Stars are going to play this system throughout the rest of this series, though. So the
Right.
system's not going to change right now. Next year, that's a different conversation. Who knows?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Game 6, we're going to play the same system. And if we play it the same way we played the first 2 periods this game, we can totally win Game 6. Who knows? We can go and win Game 7. But they have to lock it down. They have to play perfect. Like, that's what they have to do. Against a team this good, when we're a wild card team, you're going to have to play that defensive style perfect. And we played it perfect for 2 periods. You got to do it for 60 minutes, though.
Yeah, and that's been the big frustrating thing for a lot of Stars fans throughout this year is the fact that they'll look good for a period of time, and then in the third period they'll do some sort of what we've started calling turtling, and
Yeah,
I don't know what the idea was going into the third. It's almost like that idea, Chris, of what Tyler Sagan said is don't allow the goal.
Well,
They grabbed their sticks a little tighter. They freaked out. They panicked, and they didn't play the same way in the third period like they did in the first 2 periods.
yeah, and with what Patrick said, like, it might not even be a thing that they're saying, okay, let's play defensively. It's just they're not prepared for what the Flames bring back at them, which is much harder than they played in the first 2 periods. And it's not a coach thing. It's the players aren't ready, and that's totally has merit too. So sure, we're playing a bone system, but the Stars did not play in that system the correct way in the third period.
Yeah, and the nice thing is that it's not over yet. So it kind of feels like it right now because it was such a big game, and we were up 2-1 at one point, and we thought, hey, we could, if we just can get Game 4, we'll go back home, or we have an opportunity to finish it out in Game 5, and if we lose Game 5, then we can still finish it out at home. And we just haven't taken advantage of either of those opportunities. And I mean, it hasn't that been the story of the Stars season?
100%. Yeah.
I
think yeah, 100%.
And
I think these missed opportunities, those power plays, missed opportunities, all of that. I mean, that to be up 2-1 in the series, I don't know about you guys, but I had a ton of confidence headed into Game 4. I thought with the way they played and the way Odger's been playing, I mean, their win percentage at home is north of 75%. They're one of the best home teams in the league. So,
yeah,
I think that there's a whole bunch of nuance and gray area where you've got to give the Flames some credit. But I mean, look no further than that power play late in the third. I mean, here's a golden opportunity to get back in the game, and they didn't even sniff an opportunity on
shots.
goal.
0 shots on goal.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, bud.
Yeah, so 0 shots on goal on that one. And yeah, you're definitely right. The whole season, we lose to the bad teams when we need those wins. And yeah, totally agree with you, Ryan. That's missed opportunities is the key.
And then the other thing that keeps sticking in my head is I don't know if you guys, I don't know if you watch the hockey guy, Patrick, on YouTube, but he's one of my go-to guys for everything. And his thing is the Stars never do anything easy. They never do anything easy.
Never.
Maybe this is it.
And if y'all want one good stat tonight, the Dallas Stars, post leaving Minnesota, have never lost a playoff series after they've gone on a 2-1 series lead. There's your positive stat of the night. So the stats say we're going to turn it around.
I always thought if Dallas was going to win this series, it was going to be in 7. So,
yep.
I mean,
absolutely.
You guys think they're out of it? What? I mean, we're all optimistic fans, I think, at our core. So I would never say that they're out of it. I
absolutely feel like we're out of it.
Yes.
Ask me again tomorrow.
After just our Game 4 performance and then playing so good Game 5 in the first 2 periods, and then it felt like we stepped right back to Game 4 in that third period.
Yeah, it did.
Yep.
It felt like, and I went to that Game 4 game. It looked and felt the exact same way in the third period. So.
Yeah, it's just kind of like a hex comes over the game, and it's like the Stars have lost their brains from their bodies. Like if you guys seen Space Jam, it's like the talents get sucked out of their bodies, and they don't look like the same team. So I definitely think that system talk we just had is part of it. But like I said earlier, I just think, man, it's 1-0, and And who knows if that was just like Sagan's general viewpoint, like, hey, we're up 1-0. As long as we don't give up another goal, we're good. But I definitely thought, the Flames aren't going to be shut out. You just knew they weren't going to. So I knew one goal wasn't going to get it done.
That's how I felt too.
And it's weird because we're kind of back to this same thing that we had in the bubble playoffs, where like we're playing against Calgary Flames. We have to figure out our scoring, which was kind of the thing in the 2020 bubble playoffs.
Absolutely was.
We had to figure out our scoring, and it's kind of funny that we're sitting here in the exact same spot.
And here we are. Our backs are against the wall against Calgary in round 1 again. Let's see what
Someone
happens.
needs to post that Paul Rudd meme of hot ones,
Not
me.
Who'd have thought? Not me.
So
well,
the
difference here, though, guys, is that this is a very, very different Calgary Flames team.
100%. Yeah.
This is a team with Blake Coleman. I mean, they had Cam Talbot as their starting goaltender, not
It's
Jacob
a very
Markstrom.
different Dallas Stars team. We didn't have a Rope Hintz or a Jason Robertson. Look what we got now. Well, we did have Rope Hintz. We didn't have a Jason Robertson.
Yeah, and guess who's not scoring now?
Hey,
Sagan
he scored. He's back.
Sagan and Ben.
He's back.
Yeah,
we got this.
So
why do you guys
I'm
think they aren't
now.
scoring?
I've come around.
Why do you guys
Good
think they aren't
job.
scoring? Robo and Hintz, because personally I think that they're not quite utilizing Hintz's speed the way they need to. I mean, how many times have you just seen him? Not that it's like independent contractor, but just see him like waft in and get a great chance, and then even if he doesn't score, that's creating these hectic moments. And I just feel like we haven't seen that, and I definitely don't pin that on him. I don't pin it on the system. I kind of want to give the Flames some credit for neutralizing him, and I also think that they're winning the neutral zone, and those passes that are getting to him, he's not catching them in stride. And I think that's really been like a really small difference, because in tonight's game, I definitely saw that they were trying to find him cutting into the zone, but he's not catching the puck cleanly, or maybe he's catching on his backhand or whatever. Like, I swear he's only had like 1 or 2 rushes up the left side this whole series.
Yeah.
Yep,
And
absolutely.
I think a big part of that is that the Flames they're honestly a really good defensive team too. For how good their offense is, their defense is just as good. And with us having one line and they're at home, they get the line change, they're going to shut down that top line. Like it's without a doubt, it's going to happen every time. It's the same thing that the Stars do when other opponents like the Edmonton Oilers came in the regular season. We put our best defensemen against Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, and that's the end of the game. I mean, that's kind of how it works, it feels like.
Yeah, suffocating.
Really, what I think it is, I don't even think a lot of it is the Flames, because I still think they could score if they wanted to. So what I really what I really think it is I think it's a mental thing. I really do. Because both of these guys, I mean, like you said, Chris, they're both kind of unproven in the playoffs. And I mean, Otter has done that. He's proven himself in the playoffs. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt in anybody's mind across the NHL that he is bona fide number 1 starter and one of the best goaltenders in the NHL. I'll even go that far, to be honest with you. Now, the thing, though, is the way that playoff hockey is played, it just has a different feel. Can't explain it. It just has a different feel because there's that little bit more bit of anxiety, because you don't know if the next game is your last game. It may be your last game. And in the regular season, there's always that, I'll get it the next game. Well, in a playoff series like that, you don't have that kind of, benefit to think that way. And I think with Hintz and Robertson, as good as they are, I think they're just putting too much pressure on themselves, and they're gripping the sticks a little bit too tight, and they just need to go out there and play their game. Yeah. And I really think that's what it is. I think it's a complete mental thing with both of them, because we've barely seen Robo at all. I would hardly call the goal that he made tonight a Robertson goal, other than the one that bounced off his hand and whatever. But because I mean he shot it, but it bounced off of like 2 people before it went into the net. And then I mean with Hintz, I mean I'll be honest, have y'all really seen a huge, enormous difference from Rope Hintz in this series?
No,
Not
and
really. He kind
No,
of
I think
reminds
it's
me
what they're
like
doing to him, though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
definitely
I
part
don't
of
know.
it, but also like Hintz has not played good in the playoffs anyway. I mean, in the bubble playoffs, he has 25 games played and he only has 2 goals in those games. He it's definitely something mental with Rope Hintz. I just think that Robertson, it's his first playoffs ever. Okay, he played in his 5th game and he scored. That's not too awful when you're talking about playoffs. We should probably see him a little bit more, yes, but I mean, and you calling it not a Robertson goal, Ryan, almost made me laugh because he went to the front of the net like he does with all his other goals. Like we've seen him dance to the front of the net like that. He got a little lucky, yeah, but like
It wasn't clean, is what he's saying. But
yeah, it wasn't clean, but
it
a
looked
lot
like
of his goals aren't clean.
it looked like a Jordy Ben goal where it kind of bounces off things.
no, it
goes
wasn't a
in.
Jordy Ben goal.
But-
That's
and
too
no,
far.
especially
That is too
this
far.
year. Especially this year, that looked like a Tyler Sagan goal.
There you
Just-
go. That's a little
Just in front of the net and just kind of finds its
Except-
way in somehow.
I hope
Except
it's
he drove it there himself. Like Sagan
Yeah.
wouldn't have done that.
yeah, that's true.
It's the playoffs, though. You know,
That's true.
I
Yeah.
mean, the fact that he even carved out that amount of space, I thought it was really good because, like, if you saw how that play materialized, like, it's all 3 of them up on the boards, and they're just like one bad bounce from it being out of the zone and them being outnumbered going the other way, and you know you can't tell because of the TV angle, but I'm assuming that it was Ben that made that good play along the boards to spring Robertson down there. So
It was.
I don't know. I give him credit, and you know, you guys. I think the word that's been thrown around a few times now is mental, and I think that's pretty close to on brand. But I would characterize it as confidence, because one thing we know about Rope is he's a streaky scorer, and when he gets going, man, he really gets going. I mean, there was a stretch, you know, in the middle of the season where he had like 12 goals in 10 games. And so we know it's in him. And I don't think he goes into the game thinking, gee, I don't know if I'm going to score this game. I just think that what Calgary's done to them, to the whole team, stifling their offense, is getting to him. And then to make another random sports reference, it's like in basketball, if you have a 3-point shooter, like this guy's got to get a few shots to get his rhythm. And I just think that he just hasn't had a ton of opportunities. I didn't think he was bad tonight. I thought it was one of his better games of the series, but you know how many, I don't have the Stars had a breakaway this series. I don't think so.
The Michael Raffle empty netter.
There you go. Quite a move.
It's spectacular, really.
Yeah. Actually, I think Raffle did have one other one in the game before Game 3, but I mean, you know, it's not like that's a huge part of Dallas's offense, but the way their system is constructed is to try and force those turnovers in their own zone and then use their speed and passing to transition out of it. And they haven't been able to transition. And when they do, Calgary's defense is playing up towards most of those plays at the blue line. And kind of like those last 4 minutes that we were talking about, that they just couldn't manage anything. I mean, that's something where the gap, you know, their foot should be through the bottom of the car as far as on the gas pedal, you know, series on the line type stuff. And they just couldn't get it going. I just think, I wouldn't say overall this is simplifying it, but I just felt like maybe it's just a bad matchup for Dallas.
Yeah, I think Calgary's a bad matchup for anybody.
Better matchup
100%.
than Colorado. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I mean, you can go talk to the Nashville Predators about that and see what they say.
Well, they didn't have a
Well,
goalie, so
Yeah, they didn't.
Oh, that's true.
That's what's frustrating. How mad would you be if you were a Nashville fan? You guys are just getting drudged through the internet, and like Saros isn't playing. Like that's not
totally
really what
different
their
series
team
with
is.
Saros.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So I
Well-
do feel bad for him, and then there's also part of me that I don't know if you guys have seen the stats on first off this series. I think Colorado was close to like breaking a record for goals scored in a series. And then secondly, though, like their possession metrics throughout the season, Colorado's were not as good as I thought for a team that good. So there was part of me that thought that if the Stars played them, that those styles might clash in a good way. That they might be able to. Now, since the Stars have played them, Makar's taken a leap, and you know, they obviously have goaltending now, so it wouldn't have gone the Stars' way most likely. But I also think it wouldn't have been a sweep. I think it would probably been a lot like this series, where I think it's pretty clear Calgary has the better team and better depth, but Dallas has, the great equalizer. Like, I don't know how you guys are feeling, but as tough as this game, was to watch, my optimism for the future of this team is perhaps better than it's been in a long, long time. I mean, with Andre in goal, man, he is just to be able to perform the way he has in these types of environments. And I mean, the guy was pitching a shutout through 2 periods, and the guys in front of him let him down a little bit. Like, were either of those goals? Did you think those were on him? I didn't.
Yeah, absolutely not. I totally agree with you there. That has 100% been my thought. And with the players that we have in the minors that are tearing it up,
yeah,
my optimism for next year is through the roof. This is not an end of season podcast, but
Yeah.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah, and it's even crazier. Like, we forget Otter is only 23. He is the youngest goaltender in these playoffs, and he's playing better than a lot of them.
Yeah, only below Markstrom.
I know, dude. Markstrom's
disagree.
a business finalist.
He has a
he's
better.
been I think he's been the best goaltender in the playoffs.
Yeah,
hands down.
He's faced more shots.
And
than Markstrom.
going
he has
into
a better
the
save
playoffs,
percentage.
Yeah.
Does he?
Barely.
Yeah. Going into
4
the
points.
playoffs, I would have said, Shesterkin is the best, is going to be the best goalie in the playoffs. But obviously, that hasn't been the case either.
Yeah.
But okay, well, it's already getting late, guys. So let me ask you this, and this will be our last question, and then we'll wrap it up here. What do the Stars need to do in Game 6 to win Game 6 and force a Game 7? And do we see any lineup changes at all for the Dallas Stars?
They need to score. I hope they don't do lineup changes. Radulov and Gurianov don't deserve to be on the ice. I mean, their Game 4 effort was disgusting, and I don't really want to see them play again.
Pitiful.
I liked seeing Studnich. I thought he played hard. Peterson was okay. I mean, it's better than having Gurianov not skate as hard as he can. We know how fast he can skate, but we need to score goals. I think we talked about Hintz has to score, Robo has to score. We're gonna need help. Otter has to play great, and that's what it's gonna be.
We're gonna need more than 2 goals, in my opinion. I think in order to win the game, we're gonna need 3 goals,
100%.
at least. So. What do you think, Patrick? What do you think the Stars need to do?
Lineup changes, man. I was super glad that they put Peterson in there, because he's also one of those guys you have to feel really good about his future, which, I know they're playing to win now, but man, isn't there a part of you that just wonders, like, are we really playing towards the future if he's not playing the first 5 games? Yeah. I mean, or first 4 games. I mean, he hasn't been good defensively this year, Peterson, but it's, not, he's top 6, top 5 on the team in goal scoring. So, but then, I know we're wrapping up here, but I think like this is a really key question for you guys is, I always look at hockey as risk versus reward. And, the Dallas is a low risk team. That almost panned out for them in this game. They didn't take risks. It was really working until it wasn't. And then when they needed to take risks, it wasn't there for them. So I'm with you. Like, I did have a few minutes where I was ripping Suter pretty good. And I really hate those. I get really frustrated with people that it's, we're unfairly ripping on players because they're not a good player or whatever. I think it's fair to criticize effort, and I think there's also fair to criticize, for lack of a better term, IQ. So I think 100% Gurianov did not deserve to play in this game. I was super glad to see that he didn't make this roster. because that shift in the second period of game 4 where they're hemmed in there for 4 minutes and he could have gotten it out multiple times is pretty inexcusable. So I think the real question is just like, okay, so, and I think you guys answered it earlier, like are the Stars going to take a defensive mindset into this last game, or are they going to take offensive? Because if they're going to go risk reward here and they're going to try and need to take some chances, I mean, there's a case for, I can't believe I'm saying this, but there's a case to be made for Gurionov coming back in. I'd say for Studenic. It's not that he was bad, but just not enough. And
not enough potential to score.
I can't believe I'm saying that, but I guess that would be the one change I'm making because of what's the Stars' issues. It's scoring right now. But if the coaching staff doesn't have confidence that Gurionov's going to play defense and can make the right plays, then I 100% agree with him not being out. But unfortunately, the biggest, what we're talking about is the big issue overall is how this roster is constructed. They just don't have a ton of pieces. Like, give Jim Nell credit for getting Nemestikov. Like, how good does that move look for a fourth, now third round pick, I believe, or getting him in there. So I don't know what they can do. I genuinely would play Harley over Suter. They'll never do it.
Yeah.
But I genuinely think they need to try and take some risk here to score these goals. But at the end of the day, the fact that we've talked about it this long, the fact that sorry for such an elongated answer, but the fact that like we've talking this long and there's not an easy thing to point to shows A, how hard it is to make these decisions, and B, just the Stars roster is just like not up to par. It's just not where it needs to be. That there's no quick fix here. So I think that I think this was definitely a step in the right direction. Game 5 compared to game 4, they played a lot better defensively. If they can take that same mindset and I'd probably reunite the top line, and hopefully they can get 2 or 3, and Audrey stands on his head. That's the recipe you have to go with at this point. What do you guys think?
You talked about risk reward. I mean, your backs are against the wall. You're supposed to lose the series now. Might as well.
I was honestly, going back to Peterson, I was pretty frustrated that Peterson wasn't playing from the get-go on this series too. I mean, and it's not necessarily even that, like, he hasn't been playing very good in the last like 12 games of the regular season. That's fair. He wasn't like playing super bad defensively, in my opinion, either. I mean, I know plus minus is like an awful stat, but extremes tend to tell you a lot. And he only has a -1 on 65 regular season games, which like that's not awful for
the Stars had a
team
-8
that went negative overall. Yeah. So and really you gotta let him play in this series. Just making the team in the regular season, it felt like he deserved the spot more than other people going into the series. And
then a guy they traded for 20 games ago or picked up off waivers.
And and really if he doesn't get to play in the next game, I'm going to be really upset, because that's like a big missed opportunity, more for him than for anyone else. Like that essentially wastes a whole playoff season for him.
Yeah,
fair.
Predictions for Game 6.
Wait, what do you think? What do you think they'll change?
Oh, what I think? No one's asked me that before. No, just kidding. It's really hard. I guess that's why Bonus gets paid the big bucks, and we sit here on the internet and talk about it.
Yeah.
Ryan thinks we should win.
I wouldn't change anything. I keep the same lineup, and this sounds absolutely stupid, and Chris is gonna ream me for it. Put Pavelski on a different line. Put the 3 of them on different lines. It's not working. It's not working. We're not getting any kind of offense, and splitting them up doesn't allow. I know Chris is. I know. I'm sorry, Chris, but we're looking at extremes at this point. And I don't think that's the right way to do it. But if you're looking for something to go extreme on, that's what I would do. What do I think the right thing is to do? Keep it the same. Keep Robo on the second line. I actually liked Ruffalo on the first line. I thought he had a good game tonight. I thought he had a really good game tonight.
I think you're wrong, but
I think he played the way he played the other games, but he's playing on the first line that's supposed to score.
Exactly.
Not
They need him.
third
They
line
need to
that's
be
supposed to check.
more of a playmaker, not a forechecker.
Yeah.
And
I really like Ruffalo. I really hope they bring him back.
He played great this series.
There's one other thing that I thought about that we haven't done in this series. We haven't played Calgary style yet. We haven't opened up the game. We haven't gone rush for rush. We haven't done it. It hasn't happened. There was like one time in the second period in the fourth game that it happened. No one scored off of it. It was like 2 minutes long. That was it.
James is flirting with danger here. He's just
I
like,
mean,
let's go.
If we've hit all the extremes now.
We've hit everything else so far. It's like, if you're going to try something,
open it up.
Yeah, open it up. Sure.
Hire Lindy Ruff as a consultant.
There you go.
One game.
One game contract.
Exactly.
I'm sure he'd be happy to get out of New Jersey.
Yes.
Yeah, no joke. Okay.
Yeah, there's something to that. Like them getting open. I mean, I'm with you. I definitely thought of that second period there. Like, it's unfortunate that has to be their best way. But I mean, I said that down the stretch of the third period. Like, Dallas has to start taking some chances. They've got to let Miro go coast to coast. They've got to let Klingberg try and go coast to coast. Like, they're going to have turnovers. They're going to give up grade A chances. But if they can't score with the system they're rolling out, then they have to try something because it's do or die. And I think trying to play that defensive game, while it worked for 2 periods, in this series, I just don't see them shutting down the Flames again.
Yeah. And I mean, like, just turn it into a goalie duel. If we can truly turn it into a goalie duel, I feel like we have a very good chance in that, honestly.
Yep.
Jedi versus the Sith.
Last non-hockey sports reference is a Hail Mary.
Yep.
Absolutely. But you know what? On the flip side
6,
of that,
though?
go for it.
Sorry. Predictions for Game 6. What's the final score?
I'm in a poor state of mind. I think we lose. I don't know what the score is.
I think this team has too much potential to lose this game. I think we all know how good our top line is. I think we all know how good Andra is. I really don't see them losing 2 out of the 3 at home, just from a statistical point of view. So I think the win, I bet it'll be somewhere in the neighborhood of 4-2 or 4-3, just because I think that they're going to have to open things up.
James?
Man, I just don't know. I felt more unconfident in this game than I have in any of the other games during this series. And I don't know. I just don't know that they can figure out how to stop the Flames from deciding that their desperation mode is like crazy. Sorry, that wasn't clear. What I mean is the Flames have played a very good desperate hockey style when they get there. When they get there, they are always shooting. They're always getting the puck. They're pressuring you hard. We didn't figure that out in Game 4. We didn't figure that out in the third period of Game 5. I just don't know if we can figure that out. I don't think we win it.
Are they desperate in Game 6, though? We're the ones who should be desperate
Absolutely.
in Game 6.
Yes,
I think
100%. Because, all right, to touch on that, though, like, we're up 2-1. The Flames were the desperate team here. Mm-hmm. The pressure's on them to tie it, right? And then they go to Game 5, and while it seems like it's equal, it's the Flames at home. I genuinely felt like, and they're the top seed. They have more pressure. So, like, this is Dallas's chance to respond. This is like Mavs Suns. Like, Mavs going back to Game 6. Like, the pressure's on them, but I expect them to rise to the occasion. So
I'll bring some hope in here. The Stars have not played super desperate hockey yet, honestly.
No, they need to, for sure.
We steal a game at home. This would be our first look at desperate Stars playoff hockey for this team.
And we all know what can happen in a Game 7, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then you better have it in Game 7.
Well, I think it's going to be a blowout.
Stars are going to blow them out.
I think the Stars are going to blow them out. No, I'm serious.
Shut it down.
I don't. I have no logic and I have no stats to back it up.
He's got heart.
I think it's gonna explode, and I think if Gurianov gets back in, he will score. Hintz will score. Klingberg will score. Miro Heiskanen will score, and Pavelski will add the empty netter.
That is
So I
the
think it's gonna
exact
be
Stars playoff. That's the Stars style, right? Score a bunch of goals. You got it, Ryan.
Yeah. Nailed it.
I don't know what's making me say this, but
They're due for a breakout game offensively. I am
hot
pretty
take,
surprised
5-0.
that they haven't.
5-0 hot take. That is definitely a
5-0 hot
1 in the
take.
morning take for that.
Yep.
All right, I think we've kind of hammered it to death, you guys. Anything else we need to mention before we close it out here for tonight?
I just want to thank you guys for the opportunity for coming on here.
Yeah.
I don't get to talk to a ton of people that know what they're talking about, and you guys are all very competent and smart guys, and I sure hope
You hear
to
that,
do
Chris?
He called us
Whoa.
smart.
He's talking about all of us being smart, not just
No.
you.
Yeah. Aren't you guys all from the same lineage?
Something like that.
Yep, something like that. So
Yeah. No, I have a ton of respect for what you guys do. So hope
Thank
to
you.
do another one with you guys soon.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah. Thanks for coming on, man. And
Oh.
for those of you that if you want to follow Patrick, he's on Twitter at Patrick Hayslip. Did I say that right?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, and you can go and follow him there, and he's got more logical takes than I do in my 5-0 blowout lead that I think the Stars are going to have on Game 6. But go and follow him there, and also all of his articles on Blackout Dallas as well. He does a really good job with those. So thanks, Patrick, for joining us tonight. And yes, Patrick is cool, as James brings up the comment from Ardell there. Ardell, thanks for all the comments, man, by the way.
Is that Ardell from the postgame show?
Yes,
Yeah.
it is. That is Ardell from
man,
the postgame
let me tell
show.
you, we listen to Ardell every game going home.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
And
we do.
It's
Yeah.
awesome.
I don't know if you guys heard the last one, but that dude calls in and says, why does Jamie Benn have the C? I thought Ardell was about to blow a gasket because I know he loves Jamie Benn. And so, I just think that, there's a ton of nuance to approaching the game of hockey. It's such a unique game. It's never black or white.
I love it.
So I appreciate that he has a really leveled part of it. And, at the end of the day, we're all fans. Like even all the media members, like no one wants to, I know from experience, no one wants to cover a losing team. We all want them to do well. So I think that it's important, especially being a Stars fan, to have a certain amount of optimism and a certain amount of realism. But I think once you get into that like pessimism side of it, I just feel like it's kind of borderline unhealthy. So I'm always going to be that way. And I appreciate Ardell specifically because I see a lot of myself in him. He's always calling in with some positive stuff. So,
well, all right. I guess I got to do my shameless plug and get us out of here, guys.
Good time.
Yep. Please go and check out StarcastStickerMarkShop.com. That's the best way that you can support our podcast. We have all of our Phase 1 merch up there. There's a couple of stickers too. And we'd really appreciate it if you guys would do that and get yourself a Starcast Sticker Mark shirt. And then, as always, if you're listening to this and you've heard anything that you've liked, please consider liking, subscribing, commenting, leaving a review, whether that's here on YouTube or, on Twitch or Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever. We've seen a really large uptick in our downloads, especially this past week with the playoffs starting. So we really appreciate you guys listening in. But along with Chris and James and Patrick, my name is Ryan, and we will catch you guys on the flip side. Hopefully we'll get a GG boys from Chris Game 6 on Friday. Y'all have a good evening.